Love Actually has established itself as a Christmas classic. There are many reasons why it was able to secure that place. From a fantastic and well-known cast, to the lightheartedness and humor, to the variety it provides in its many more or less separate storylines. What I became distinctly aware of the last time I watched it is how the writer manages to tell all these different plots coherently at the same time, and how he is able to move between them seamlessly. Love Actually is what is called a multi-plot film. Multi-plot films never develop a central plot. Rather, they weave together a number of stories of subplot size. This means that there is no central direction around which everything can be built. The writer thus has to come up with small stories that work together to form something bigger than the sum of its parts. In Story, Robert McKee talks about the ways subplots or multiplots stand in relationship to one another. For Love Actually, mainly one of these comes into play. Subplots may be used to resonate the controlling idea of the central plot and enrich the film with variations of a theme. The main idea of the film is clearly stated on the first page of the script.
Look for it. I've got a sneaky feeling you'll find that love actually is all around.
The different storylines are supposed to show the viewer variations of how and where love might occur. They have to be intertwined to create a coherent end product. Richard Curtis, the writer of Love Actually, managed to pull this off extremely well. Writing a multiplot is more complex than just coming up with a few short films but intercutting them. There not only needs to be a connection between the storylines, but scenes following each other also need to make sense together. While there are certain characters that connect two or more stories together, it isn't what makes it work. There are a few ways to transition from one scene to the next. These aren't exclusive to multiplot films, but where in a single plot the next scene might just be a logical successor to the previous, Love Actually has to get creative. Robert McKee explains it like this. The third element is the hinge for a transition, something held in common by two scenes or counterpointed between them. He then goes on to give examples of possible traits that could connect scenes. As Love Actually offers such a variety, I want to showcase some to demonstrate this principle. As all the characters live in the same world, they sometimes appear in each other's lives. This is regularly used to then move on to the next storyline.
Mia, do turn that down. What is that?
And that was the Christmas effort by the once great Billy Mack.
The scene intentionally ends with a comment on the radio, so we can more easily move on to see what is going on with Billy in the studio. Just a few minutes later, we can see a slight variation of that transition.
Thank you, Billy. After this, the news is the new Prime Minister in trouble already.
Okay, what's next?
The President's visit.
Ah, yes. I fear this is going to be a difficult one to play. Alex.
The radio host mentions that the Prime Minister might already be in trouble. So next we cut to him and can see for ourselves how he does. Then there is a transition that I have to show. It's just brilliant.
Significant detail.
You look into my eyes. Baby, I'm too lost in you, caught in you, lost in everything about you so deep.
To build up to the final climax, a few before separate appearing characters and storylines are tied together as they all attend the same nativity play at a London school. Here, the location ties the cuts between them together. But there is also Jamie, who is off to France, where he hopes to find love. To make the transition to his situation as easy to follow as possible, he too is just arriving at his destination. Connecting these two separate storylines and introducing that Jamie has arrived before paying off the action in London is important for another reason. After cutting back and forth a few times, the stories of both locations are almost at the climax. Then we first get to experience the show at the school without being interrupted by what is happening in France. But as soon as the school scene has reached its tipping point, the writer can effortlessly cut to Jamie's proposal. Richard Curtis doesn't have to spend any time explaining the situation, as we already know where Jamie's at. That both stories are at a similar point structure-wise makes the cut even easier. He used a similar type of action in two scenes to build to a tipping point simultaneously, and then is able to use the entanglement and the fact that he batched together the two finales to create what feels like one bigger one. This combining of stories at critical turning points is a technique that is used throughout the film to make scenes blend together and give the viewer a better understanding of where they are at. All of these strategies don't exclusively apply to multiplot films. How to tie a script together into one coherent product is a challenge of every project. As every story is different though, the writer must get creative with how to apply the raw ideas. While Love Actually has its flaws, what I cannot argue against is how creative they were in transitioning from a scene of one story to the next of a different one. Thanks for watching.